Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us here on the Pondcast. Tonight is episode 50, and I was talking to Anthony earlier. I can't believe we're at 50 already, or at all, in some respects. It's been a quite a wild ride these few years on the Pondcast. We've got Anthony and Kevin with us as usual. For episode 50, we thought we'd do something and basically just focus on viewer questions. So several of you gave us some questions ahead of time. If you want to ask some questions now, we want to focus on you, the viewers who have made 50 episodes possible tonight. So, Anthony, I'll let you say a few words about the podcast to celebrate this number 50.
You know, what else could we do at this point besides reflect? Reflect on the years that have passed. It's been, off the top of my head, it's been more than 5.5 years since the first episode, which was recorded audio only in John Weir's girlfriend or fiance at the time. I'm not sure if they were engaged. I think girlfriend's car, a Toyota Tercel, parked in a commuter parking lot, and basically he lives in New York City, I live in Connecticut, so it was a chance for us to just meet somewhere. Like, we had this really cool idea that we wanted to try to start. Not a lot of listeners at that point, but some people did, and that was enough for us. Like, just the fact, I can remember saying to him, like, honestly, if one person listens to this, I would be so thrilled. And there were quite a few. I don't normally wear scarves like this. This is a commentary on how cold it is today. I went for a jog this morning. It was 18 degrees. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I wish. It wasn't quite that cold here.
Steve loves weather, in case anyone hasn't picked up on that before. Steve loves the weather. He really does.
Anthony, with that, are you not heating down there to make kind of brumation easier?
Is there what? Is there heating?
Are you heating downstairs, or are you doing it on purpose for brumation?
No, actually, I wish it was colder down here. The basement's been in the low 60s, which I really wish it was in the 50s, because most of the species, I mean, if there's like a tortoise that shouldn't get into the high 50s or mid 50s, then obviously supplemental heat is fine, and moving to a different area. But for the most part, a lot of the species that I keep, I wish they were in the 50s, and they're not yet. So hopefully it's enough.
What about running like an air conditioner down there?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
You know?
It'd be so weird to run an air conditioner when it's 18 degrees outside.
I've done it.
I don't know.
Not for turtles, but I've done it.
So back to the podcast. So I can't remember exactly where it was. Somewhere around, I don't know exactly where it was, which episode we were at, but I saw another podcast that used this video platform, and talked to Steve about it.
Well, we had switched to video before going to this. We recorded a couple video episodes via Skype, I think it was.
Oh,
you remember that? That wasn't lived.
I don't think I was recording on video, though. I think I was just recording the audio.
Okay, we might have just recorded, but we did some via Skype that way too.
Yeah, I just spent $30 for that plugin to record Skype calls, and then we used it for a little while. That's right. I totally forgot about that. That's wild. So anyway, the technology has advanced much faster than we've been able to keep up with it. So there's probably something really cool we don't know about yet. Go ahead and drop us a line if there is. It's been an absolute thrill to be able to communicate this way, to be able to get to know on a personal level some of the guests that we've had. And of course, work together with you guys to build something that we think is really cool. So really happy to be here. It's crazy that it's been 50 episodes. It's crazy that Chris Leone's probably been on 25 of those as a guest. Just kidding. But it's awesome. And it's cool to reflect too, at this time. New year, new me, same podcast, hopefully better. But
Anthony, what's new about you?
What's new about me? My scarf.
Yeah, besides the scarf.
I went for a run this morning. I'm gonna try to not to be as fat. I want to live for many decades to come with turtles in my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
So timeline for everybody. Episode 1 we aired on February 24th, 2013.
You should have let me guess off the top of my head.
I'll let you guess when we switch to video then. I'll give you a hint. It was episode number 9.
9. I was gonna say 8.
It was, Pondcast goes live. Guess what date that one was?
That would have been the middle of 2014.
Yeah, July 22nd.
Not bad. Not bad. Everyone is watching saying, I'm not impressed. They're your shows. You should know when they were.
And we added our first special guest right on episode 10.
Who was the first guest?
Rosie.
Steve Rosen, the first guest. How did that happen? That's a trivia question that will never be answered correctly. No offense, Rosen. I know you're watching.
Was our own Kevin Labille.
Oh yeah,
about African species, and then we had Andrew and Chris on right after that. Yeah,
I listened to Andrew one not too long ago. It was about how to run a successful turtle business.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Wow. Look at that. Yeah. So, I mean, the podcast, I'm really proud of the podcast because I think it's like we have our platforms. We've had some guests on who we don't necessarily agree with in every way. We've had some guests on who have talked about like their experiences that we don't necessarily condone, if that makes any sense, but being able to hear their side of the story has been absolutely amazing. And I think like, if you look at a show like River Monsters or something like that, like Jeremy Wade goes out and has these adventures, and then like Animal Planet releases the book and it's all the same adventures you see on the show. Like, I totally feel like we could have a book just based on the guests that we've had here and the cool stories that they've told right here on the podcast. So that to me is like the coolest thing that's happened.
If only we knew somebody that's published a book before and knows how to go about it, you know? If only.
What are you talking about, Russ? Russ Gurley?
You.
I don't know how to publish a book. I barely wrote a book. It's like a pamphlet. I've seen
as you make fun of the size of your own book. Remember how long it felt in the Word document?
It did. You're right. It's so funny to reflect on. You're right. But I've seen longer pamphlets for Ninja blenders. Anyway,
well, they have to make sure people don't cut themselves in the blender, and that takes like what 18 pages because of all the different ways they have to say it.
That's
like,
more important than saving.
Don't stick your toes in. Don't stick your nose in. You know.
Right. It's more important than saving or learning about rare Asian species. I agree. I don't agree. I don't care if you stick your hand in a blender. Save the Spengler eye. I'm sick of saying it. Yeah. So, and we wanted to do something new for this podcast where we basically, and of course, Steve is like such a whiz, right? He just creates that survey questionnaire that can be sent out so that viewers can very easily, conveniently, in just a matter of seconds, send their very detailed notes to us so that you can suggest. What can they suggest? I can't remember anymore. Can they suggest guests?
They can
topics, questions.
But they can suggest topics for the future, so they could include a guest there if they wanted to. You know,
right. It's pretty cool
response type thing. That link's on our page and has questions for tonight. We'll tweak the form with some other stuff for the future. But if you want to ask questions now, you can go to the live chat. You can go into that form. Either way, we'll see them as you put them in.
Yeah, I think this form would be great to have on the website. We have stuff.
We'll do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, so as you know, the topic of this was your questions, and we have 8 questions lined up. So if you see stuff, if you have questions in the meantime, you can either throw them in the YouTube chat right there live or toss them in here. I can refresh as we go.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
Can I just add something?
Absolutely.
The interesting piece here is we had time and we really could have like screened the questions and read them first.
Yeah.
So if we stumble over them at first, just know that we wanted to have the opportunity to kind of just answer off the cuff. This is something that John, the co-creator of the podcast and my best friend in the world, my only friend who's taller than me, it's something he used to love to do. And I used to complain to him all the time about it. But I have to admit, like with this episode 50, I thought like, you know what, let's pour this one out for our homie John. And, you know, let's do it the way that he would have liked to do it, which is just throw it off the cuff. So you're going to get our real real-time, embarrassing responses to each one of these questions instead of just, the pre-rehearsed response where I could have done a little research and tried to sound really smart. So I feel like I'm putting myself at risk here of sounding dumb, and I just want you guys to know that very well might happen. So enjoy. This could be great.
For what it's worth, we did try to bring back some old hosts as well, but the schedule just didn't happen to work out for that. Yeah. So maybe we'll try to squeeze that in here over the future episodes that we'll be rocking out over the next few months. But Kevin, give us a question, bro.
All right. First question comes from a Turtle Room friend, big friend of Anthony's as well, Charlie Moorcraft. The question is, what are some ways people starting to keep turtles and tortoises can get involved to help protect their future?
Man,
it's a good question. That's a deep one to start with.
Who is that question for? Anyone?
That is for everyone.
He's the best. So democratic,
This is Veda, by the way.
Hi, Veda. Veda, would you like to answer the question about the turtles?
Veda, say hi, turtles.
Don't do it. Do not pick that nostril. Don't. You almost did it.
Record it for posterity.
Kevin's so nervous. So embarrassed.
My daughter's not a booger picker.
Your face looks red. Maybe it's just because it's next to her. She's very pale.
Yeah.
Is she feeling all right?
Yeah, she's great.
Okay, good. So Charlie's question. Charlie is a wonderful guy. If you guys haven't had the chance, or if you see him like around Facebook in the turtle section perusing and you're not sure who he is, he's really one of the great ones. Such a great guy. And his question's a really good one because I think to be able to feel like you're making a difference or to be involved or what, I think whatever you want to do, whatever you want to accomplish, it's like a very personal, very individualized process. So what I find fulfilling is not what Steve's going to find fulfilling. It's not what Kevin's going to find fulfilling. And then there's the whole like ignorance is bliss thing too, where I think a lot of us have done things in the past thinking that we were really helping out, and come to find out, you learn a little bit more and you find that you can use your time in other ways, in other areas. So I think, go ahead, please. Is that you, Steve?
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of times we focus a lot on what can I do? Like, what species can I go buy a couple of and keep and help protect their future? And like, we love to think that by, horking up a couple of turtles and putting them in an aquarium or a tub and trying to breed them is like going to help protect their future. And I guess if we're talking about preserving the species, like they don't go like extinct even in captivity, that might marginally make some difference. But one of the things that I think we learned several years ago, and in some ways is why the Turtle Room is the way it is we needed to connect with other people, because you can't really do that yourself. You can't possibly keep enough of a single species to really make a big impact on that in that manner, even though I think a lot of us would love for that to be a truth. I don't think it really is one that you can just save a species by yourself by keeping a couple in captivity or whatever. I think one of the great ways that people can get involved is, I think there's two ways. Is I would try to personally get involved volunteering with a conservation organization, because there are so many different niches you could fill, even if you don't know a lot about turtles. And I think this is a topic we've brought up a little bit before, is photography. If you're willing, if you have the ability to travel and take photos, turtle conservation organizations could use you. If you have the ability to, throw something out there. If you're a video guy like Kevin, that's how Kevin came to be with us, because he had a passion for video as well as turtles and tortoises. And so there's a lot of different niches that you can fit in. Because I assume the question is asked because some people want to get beyond just, donating money. And while that's valuable, like the time and effort somebody can spend in helping participate in an outreach program, helping, just take structures for an organization to use on media and social media and whatever can be really valuable. It's stuff that's otherwise time consuming and might be lesser quality because turtle organizations aren't hiring photographers as a whole. It's great if somebody can do it, but you got to hire people who are turtle conservationists to do field work and things like that. So I think it's limitless how people can get involved in conservation as long as you're a little bit creative about it. And like you go, hey, I'd like to get involved. Well, send us an email. We can figure out what skills you have and find a way for you to target them to help turtles and tortoises.
Yeah, can I just ask you, what does it mean to hork up a couple turtles?
I don't know. I don't know where that came from.
Hork was the word. Define hork.
Hork. H-O-R-K.
Yeah. I normally think of it with food, and maybe it's because I don't know.
It sounded sexual to me.
That way.
It sounded sexual to me.
To foul up, to be occupied with difficulty, tangle, or unpleasantness.
That might have been the sexual part, the unpleasantness for me. That might have been what it was.
The program, but something is horked and it won't load.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Steve,
either way, it was inappropriate.
I think you used the wrong word, Steve.
I was just, I don't know where it came from.
As somebody who hasn't really had the scientific background or whatnot, I've always had a passion for turtles. And as Steve said, I wanted to do whatever I could. So I sent a message. Actually, they were looking for a writer, and I said I can't write for my life, but I do know how to edit video. I did that for 15, 20 years, and they brought me on board. It's been over 2 years now. I'm happy to be here still. And I apologize to all of you if you've been waiting for our videos. I had some technical issues with my computer, but we're back up and running now. You'll see videos starting next Monday again.
There you go. Heard it here first, folks.
Exciting.
Heard it here first. Yeah. Listen, it's got to be the people for me. At the end of the day, I love nothing more than helping someone to see something in a different way. Charlie probably knows that we have these long discussions. Steve, Kevin, we've had these long discussions in the past where we talk about things and learn from each other. Steve sets me straight all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've asked Steve different questions that I just know he's going to know the answer to. And there's a lot of people like that you can rely on. I rely on so many people. I also, though, say, researching is fun to do it on your own and not just to ask the questions. And over time, you learn who to ask and who to go to for those more and more complex questions as you keep going and learning,
Yeah. And, that actually you mentioned about learning and doing research actually brings up another way you can get involved is get out and attend a conference. Like learning more, like that's a great way to get involved because you get to meet so many people who are involved with it. You get to learn more about the conservation side that you may not know a whole lot about. And through those connections, you might find a way where you can offer your talents and gifts. And I know it takes some time and money to get to one of these events, but I think in the long run, getting down to things like that can be a really beneficial thing.
Amen. Said it here before. What else you got, Kev? Hork another one at us.
Hork it, yeah. I'm going to hork this one from somebody that watches us every month when we do this, Cole Schramm. This one's pretty basic. It could be for anybody on here. Do you guys keep any other reptiles other than turtles or tortoises? I'll start, if that's okay. I currently do not. Throughout my life, I've had all manners of things, but I've always had a passion for turtles. And actually, I co-own some monitors, but they're not living in my home right now. So moving on to you guys.
That sounds complicated.
I have a really quick short answer. So I actually kept some anoles before I kept turtles.
Was that food for
what?
Turtles?
I never knew that.
I had a couple of those. I even had one lay an egg.
Did you eat it?
What?
Did you eat it?
That'd be like it's like the size of it's just like the size of a jelly bean. Like
no, I meant the anole. Did you eat the anole?
No.
I don't know. I mean, I never knew you kept anoles. Maybe there's other stuff I don't know. Like
no, I didn't.
Maybe that's why you never told me about it.
Yeah, I had anoles, and they actually laid an egg, but they laid it like right under the heat lamp, and I was gone for hours. And by the time I got back, it was like a raisin instead of an egg.
And after that experience, you said no more nulls. I'm going to turtles now.
No, I kept the nulls for a while until they passed away, but I
That's
didn't
really
get any
cool.
more eggs. It was really a bummer.
That's
You
really
guys-
cool.
You guys know that anoles are actually a lot of times bred as feeder lizards,
I had no idea.
What do people feed them to?
larger lizards.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Who knew?
Yeah.
You
If go
did.
to these those like backwater reptile sites, things like that, you'll see
Yeah.
feeder lizards on there, and those are part of it.
Interesting. It's amazing what you don't know when you just have tunnel vision. Guilty. This guy. But I will say I keep no other reptiles, and to the point where like Chris Leone has had a couple snakes over the years. And when I visit him, I get angry with him that he has snakes. I feel like he's a bit of a traitor on the inside, but he's a good guy. It's okay. It's okay. But I used to breed bearded dragons. Actually, that was the first reptile that I ever bred. I had 19 bearded dragons when I was in college, and my apartment smelled so bad. It was horrible.
I'd love to actually have a couple lizards again in the future, but
they're really cool, and I love them.
I enjoy lizards.
Steve,
I'm tunnel vision. I'm too into something. I'm too into turtles, so I can't have all the turtles that I want to keep. So I wouldn't keep anything that I wasn't 100% dedicated to and didn't have more than enough space for. If that makes sense. So,
Steve, we're working on trying to breed some peach throat monitors in the U.S., which isn't really that often. Fairly small.
Yeah.
So if that does happen, you let us know if you want to try something out.
Okay, we'll do.
Even if it's just like you don't have to buy it, just raise it up if you want.
put it on the poll for the. Can we make a poll for the listeners? Is Steve actually interested in the monitors?
Will there be the lizard room soon?
The lizard room.
Can we? Can we do that? Do we have the technology, Steve? Can we do that next? Could that be the next big thing after this new questionnaire that you developed? First of all, Steve, I don't know how long it took you to do it. Maybe it took you like 40 hours to do it in the back room. You created that questionnaire. It must have took you 40 seconds.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't long at all. I mean, it's Google Forms. Google Forms is pretty intuitive and quick and easy.
Oh, is that all that was? It looks a lot more professional than I would expect.
Yeah, it's Google Forms. They do a great job.
I'm embarrassed. I'm not that.
Yeah, it's actually Google makes it easy to embed. They have lots of customizable things, so I was able to use our own green color instead of just picking a random green. So
that's awesome. Very cool.
All right,
thanks for your hard work. All right, Sue, excuse me.
And you're excused. As my grandmother used to say, there's no excuse for you.
Oh,
Say it to me though.
Your grandmother sounds rough.
She's rough and tumble lady,
Is she still around?
No. She passed when I was like 14.
I shouldn't have asked. I'm sorry.
It's 20 plus years ago. We're good.
She sounds awesome though.
She was good. Yeah. She used to make me promise that I would, when I go to school dances, that I would pick up a wallflower and dance with her. Which.
That's sweet.
Yeah, nice lady.
Little did she know that you were the wallflower.
Oh yeah. I'm still a wallflower.
I've never been called a wallflower in my life. Not that either one ever imagined that.
Wallflower is like somebody that would be shy and wouldn't walk out into the crowd to dance. But if you talk to my wife, I dance nonstop with Veda every day.
Right.
Trolls is on in the background. We're just going wild.
But in those days when you were a kid, you needed someone to come up and hork you to the dance floor.
Oh man. Okay, so our next question is also on the YouTube chat, and I apologize. I don't want to butcher your name. It's either Rosendo or Rosendo.
All right.
They're asking the latest on Raphitus, and I probably butchered that also.
Who's the question for?
It's from YouTube, so anybody.
Latest on Raphitus.
Oh, cool.
So they have officially identified a fourth living specimen. That was a couple months ago that happened. They've also found some eDNA and observed an animal in of a potential fifth. But last I knew, they still had not yet confirmed which large soft shell species that fifth animal belonged to. If you want to keep up to date on that, there is the what's the name of that? Oh, the Asian Turtle Program. It's based in Vietnam. I think actually you could go to asianturtleprogram.org and you can sign up for their newsletter. They're the ones that kind of head up a lot of that work. It also pops up like anytime there's news on that, we make sure to include it in our World Turtle News blog. So great way to keep up on that kind of stuff are those two avenues.
Yeah. What he said. We were just talking about the ATP today, though. They're a great organization.
Yeah.
Is it pronounced Raphitus? I thought it was Raphitus.
Again, that depends on which Latin school you
we can't get into that
on
again.
the e-ver.
It's the 50th podcast. We've gone over that 26 times. 26 different episodes have a bit where you're teaching us about different types of Latin, and I'm making fun of you for it.
I figured it's the 50th episode. We're pulling in random stuff from old ones as we go. I was like, wait a minute, here's a chance to bring up two different schools of Latin again.
Don't do it.
Tomato is, you can say it either way. Raphitus Raphatus.
You can say it either way. The one thing that actually drives me nuts, and again, since we're beating
Here
old
it comes.
drums,
We're going down that rabbit hole.
aren't consistent and blend the two, even within the same species name. So anyway,
but you're the only one who knows what's going on. So
well, not the only one, but I get your point. So there's a recap of an old episode, or 3, or
26.
26.
Awesome. That's terrific. That is just terrific.
Oh man. Okay. So our next question comes from Jeremy Thompson. It's for Anthony.
I'm so nervous.
Hey, you should be. It's this one's tough.
Hi, Jeremy.
How is your Spinosa project coming along?
Before Anthony answers that question, I just want, since Jeremy is an individual member and has supported us for a couple of years, I want to thank him for his support while we're answering his question.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Jeremy wants Connexus. I can't ever say the Latin names. I'm sorry. Topics covered in the future also, and I believe he's actually breeding some stuff that's not really bred in the U.S. very often. I've seen it online recently. So
it sounds like Jeremy should be a guest.
That might not be bad.
I'm not going to be able to teach him anything about hingebacks.
Jeremy, if you're watching right now, if you're live, just type in the chat if you want to come on as a guest sometime. We'll get it going.
Let us know. Put it on the poll. Will Jeremy actually be a guest?
I wish we could do a poll in the chat. That'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be cool? There's got to be a way.
There probably is.
We could probably do it on the website or on Facebook. Do a Facebook poll every time there's a cool, interesting.
We might be able to pull. We'll have to work on that for future episodes.
This is developing right now before our eyes, and I love it.
Oh, it's great. Okay, so answer Jeremy's question. How's your Spinosa project coming along?
I was going to make a joke and act like I forgot what the question was, but then you told me again. But I did remember what it was. So here in the basement where I am, there, excuse me, there are 5 Hyosceme spinosa, spiny hill turtle or spiny turtle or cogwheel turtle, which is a...
But I like it.
What's that?
I haven't heard that one before, but I like it. The cogwheel turtle. I like that.
I've heard that before. I didn't make that up, did I?
I've heard it.
That's not like a common name for something else, is it?
No, I like that. I like it.
Yeah, so they're terrific. When they're small, they whoa, I keep hitting my computer. When they're small, they look like ninja stars that you could throw and they'd stick to the wall. Not that you should throw turtles, especially endangered ones. But they're beautiful. They're awesome. My project, I have 2 males and 3 females. One of the males is the largest ever on record. And I wrote an article for Radiana magazine about that male. So that's the really good news. Both the males are like super duper old. The females are kind of young, just kind of coming into, adulthood. And I've been trying to breed them, and so far, absolutely nothing. The old males are not interested whatsoever. They're also like super geriatric. The huge male, the male is a foot long. He's huge, so he looks like a Hyosceme's grandis.
Anthony's 5 feet away. Go grab him.
Really?
I think he's beautiful.
Well, now you put me on the spot. I can't grab him. I can't. I showed him on the podcast before. I can't get him because he's gonna poop everywhere. It's gonna be horrible. I don't handle my turtles more than like I need to, so I don't
Yeah.
pick them up all the time. And every time I pick him up, he poops a large poop, like there was a human being that got sick and decided to poop all over my house. Like that's what it looks like.
I really like Spinosa. I got to help raise some of them several years ago. Got to watch them grow up. They're fun animals to take care of, even though
They really are. The difficult thing when they're large, and obviously I would know about a large Spinosa at this point.
They need individual spaces.
They're so disgusting. So you give them clean water, brand new clean water, and there is like if I have 5 enclosures for the 5 turtles, I put a clean water dish in each one. Every single one has poop floating in it later that day.
Yeah, it was probably even 3 minutes later.
Yeah, some, but they all definitely get to it by the end of the day. Like it's unbelievable. You feed them, they drag the food everywhere. So it's really tough to like keep bugs at bay and to keep things clean. So they're really difficult to keep indoors. And but I think they do well with the temperatures in the basement. So you know, the cool down and then the warm, humid winters, drier, cooler winters, long and warm, humid summers. Sorry, I think they do pretty well. But you know, if I'm being honest, then I think the South is probably where they belong. So don't be surprised if you or someone checks in with me about my Spinosa project and I tell you that, you know, they've moved south. Yeah, so the males have been here in Connecticut for over 25 years, at least, with a veterinarian here. So pretty cool project.
Dr. Milo.
Really cool turtles. Yep. Yeah.
All right. Before we move forward, I'm going to propose a question to the 19 people watching right now. In the future, you know, we've had some pretty notable guests, you know. In the future, who would you like to see on the show so we can start working on hopefully getting them on board to see if they're interested in talking to us for an hour once a month?
What's cool about that is if you request somebody and then we can reach out to them, probably I could reach out to them and tell them that they're requested by popular demand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Help us out. That's to answer Charlie's question. That is a way to get involved.
Yeah, definitely.
Think about it. Change the world.
So while you're all thinking about that, I'm going to move on to the next question for our team here. I don't have a last name, but this is from somebody named Kevin. It's for Anthony.
It's from you, isn't it?
No, it's not from me. When you hear the question, you'll know it's not from me.
Is it Kevin McAllister from Home Alone?
It might be. It might be Kevin McAllister. You know, he's just antics out there, just catching burglars and stuff.
Okay. I think it says it's not Kevin McAllister.
The question is, when are you going to write a natural history book about Korra?
That's a great question. I think the answer is never. Interesting answer. Why? Because there are several books already. There should be an English language book just on Korra, which for anyone watching who doesn't know, Korra is the genus of Asian box turtles. That really should probably be split more, I think, into a couple genera. Cystoclemys, maybe.
And were put back together, remember. I suspect if they do some kind of split, it might be one of those subgenus splits like we see in Chelodina. But again, I wouldn't hold my breath on any split like that, and you know, until they figure a few other things out.
I mean, part of it is just my limited understanding. Like, I work with a lot of Korra, so to be able to see the vast differences from one species all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and just how much of a change there is morphologically, behavior-wise, stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. But anyway, I actually think it's tough to say for sure, but I've heard that someone else is working on writing a Korra book for Living Art Publishing.
I would imagine could probably guess who that someone else might be, and they're very qualified to do so.
Yeah, more qualified than I am. And that's the thing is, when you're writing a book, for the most part, unless you're writing a pamphlet like yours truly, then you kind of need to know what you're talking about. So, but I do work with a lot of Korra, and I do love them. and I continue to learn from them every day and from my reading. I'm buying Asian language books now to do my research. Let me show you. I'll show you that.
Are you learning Japanese? Goshi Nihongo?
I'm back, y'all. I'm back, y'all. Sorry, I don't have my headphones in. I can't hear you if you're talking about me. What'd you say about me?
We were just waiting patiently.
Yeah.
What'd you say about it? Did you say, shh, he's back, he's back. So yeah, I've got this one. This is Chinese Colonians Illustrated. I believe it's from 1993.
Interesting.
Yep. It's got a Korra on the cover, of course. I think it's McCord. I can't tell what that is on the cover. I'll get back to you. And then there's this one, of course, which I don't even know what the title is. There's more, too. These are just a couple. But, yeah.
So you sit there like your toddler and go, "Ooh, look at the pretty pictures."
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'll actually try to translate, like with the German Juvenile book, which was an important part of in research for my book.
Right.
That's a lot easier to translate because they're using letters that are recognizable, so you can translate more easily. But with these
kanji.
Yeah, with these other characters, it's completely impossible. But this is the German. We should do a whole podcast on books that we have that are in different languages.
Anthony,
that's what takes it to the next level.
There's apps you can download that will overlay, you put the camera on and it'll overlay English over the characters that you're seeing.
Shut up with your technology. Are you serious? Where have you been? Why have you never told me this?
You didn't tell me you're buying international books.
What? You've been to my house several times. What have you been doing here?
You got 100 books. I look at, turtles that I like. I don't look at your books.
Oh my gosh, I hate you so much right now. Why is there a light behind your head? You look like there's a halo.
Yeah, I'm heavenly, clearly.
Obviously.
But also, no, upon moving my current desk in this room, I smashed the bulb that goes over the light.
Mm.
And I haven't replaced it because I have 2 kids and I can't find any time to do anything.
But you're here and we all appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, to be honest.
That means a lot. Here's the German book. I don't know if you could see it. You see that? You see that, folks? Right there? It's got the Sylvatica on the cover as well, which is that Indian.
Achilles.
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm going to pull back into Kevin's post really quick. Because one thing he wrote in here under what topics would you like to see covered on the show in the future, which we're not going to say that for every single one. That's more for us. But this ties back into our first question from Charlie Moorcraft. He thinks that it's a good topic will be based on Anthony's TTPG presentation on just how keeping and breeding turtles is not conservation, but the ability to use those turtles for education can be.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah, in some ways, I think the education end might be the easier end to start participating in because of, I guess, just the scope of education is different than the scope of, conservation programs, particularly based on skill matter. And you're more likely random animals that, kept in small groups can easily be educational where they can't necessarily be conservational. Because of, all of those, details that we talked about earlier.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And it was really difficult for me to get it out at TTPG. I really struggled. And I know we talked about that on previous podcasts, but, it is important for people to realize, because I think there's a lot of people, a lot of old timers, they've been burned by people. They try to help somebody, take them under their wing. Things don't end up going well long term. They get burned by somebody. They try to share information and things don't go well. Whatever. I don't know. I'm not giving good examples, but you get my drift. And they decide to remain pretty quiet. They just like to breed their animals and do their thing. And I understand the desire. Nothing makes me happier than getting a turtle egg than hatching that turtle egg. There's nothing better than that. Because turtles need it. And, I love sharing that with my kids. It's amazing. But even though I think it stresses my animals that I use for education, and it's a huge pain in the butt. Like, I work 4 jobs. I really do. I'm not lying. And one main job, and then a series of like part-time type jobs. But it's a real struggle sometimes to get out there and do the educational work. And there are times where people will say, well, how much do you charge for a talk? I don't charge. From now on, I'll say you could donate to the Turtle Room, but if you'd like, if you're so inclined. But it's really worth it. And when you really sit down and think about it, like, what's the low-hanging fruit? Like, what can I do to actually change the world for the better? What can I do to actually change the world for the turtles for the better? It's education, because every single one of us can educate someone. Every single one of us can help someone, and can help someone see turtles in a different way, help them learn more about the plight that turtles are facing in life. And not everyone can do the conservation. And a lot of times, even for the best breeders, conservation is not a reality.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great
projects.
We've got a lot of great educational ideas we've got working up too. So, and we need people to help execute those as well, the volunteers to step up. Some of you have already said you're going to contact me, which is awesome. So thanks so much for that, folks. Education is where we need volunteers to help make that happen, because all of us are working day jobs, right? So yeah, it'd be like, and Anthony's working more than one day job. It'd be great for us to be able to, just crank out more educational content, video, writing, you name it. But, we're limited. So, that's why we have such a big team in some respects of volunteers, is because each of us can only do so much, because we've got to make a living other ways right now.
Right.
And guys, thank you for all the suggestions so far for guests. Please keep them coming. I am writing them down so we can try to contact them. Already a couple of them are people I haven't thought of that I'm really excited about the idea of being on the show. Gives me a chance to talk to them where I probably wouldn't ever have that chance in the real world for the time being.
And if you know the people that you're suggesting, like if you know them well, let them know. Like, hey, they were talking about guests, and you should be on the podcast.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have people we want to get on the podcast, and they don't feel comfortable with it. So there may be people that you really want to see that we've been already asking for like years.
We
haven't come on because you didn't.
Fergie, who is a friend of the Turtle Room also. Just right that we should go back for Ralph Till. But I think, you guys both being in Florida, you guys should probably get together and do a team guest show one night for us. I think it'd be pretty fun.
I think that those two should get together and make a rock and roll video. like behind the scenes, like popping bottles at Ray's house with all the skinks. And Ray's a rock star. You guys don't know about that. He's got a lot of experience doing wild stuff like that back in the day. I could totally see it.
I'm really due for a vacation, so I'd like to get down to Florida. So let's, Ray, Ralph, let's chat. Let's make this happen. I think that'd be really great. We'll sponsor it somehow, even if it's just, I don't know.
He has a camera.
Free on here. I got cameras and stuff.
He has a camera. Ray, you have a couch. Let's get you guys together.
Awesome.
It's a match made in heaven.
So I'm going to move forward.
Yeah, you should.
You know what? Actually, this next question is from Ralph Till, so that's pretty good. This question is also for Anthony.
Never heard of
our
him.
knowledge of the plight of turtles and tortoises worldwide and the abundance of captive bred specimens readily available, why do we continue to accept the importation of thousands of wild-caught animals into this country? Perhaps greed? The greed was the exclamation point I put as a question.
You're going to hate me, Ralph. You're going to hate me on this one. Because I think the answer is it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think it's tough to say. I think it's complicated. There's a lot of different things at play. But yes, I think greed plays the biggest role in it. If there's money to be made, they're going to be sent. And I think a lack of knowledge too. Like the places that sell Russian tortoises thrive on a lack of knowledge. People would not be buying 4-inch Russian tortoises if they knew they were just collected from the wild and carrying whatever the heck they carry, as opposed to hatchling animals that were, responsibly produced by someone within the United States.
Yeah, well, and statistically speaking, and I'm going to get a little just not too deep mathy or anything, but
I won't make fun of you.
no, it's okay. But
have at
it. The reality is all things are not equal when it comes to one species versus another. And yes, there are an abundance of captive bred specimens readily available, but it's not like there are abundance of captive bred specimens of every species available. Nor is price point anything comparable from one species to another as a whole. You know, you can buy a turtle from anywhere from $5 to over 10 grand from one specimen. And so as a result, the economics and the statistics don't say that the captive bred availability can meet the demand, because there's all those other variables with type of species, the value of each species, etc. And so not only is it the greed mindset, I think there's this, in some ways you have, I don't know if I want to say the collector mindset necessarily, but I don't know, so you're a great guitarist and you're going to go buy a guitar. You don't go buy a $200 Epiphone off of the corner music store, right? If you're really into your stuff, you're going to do your research. You might even go to one of the custom shops of one of the top guitar companies and specify some of the specs of your guitar. So the guitars in the music store aren't going to meet your needs anymore. And so I think the same thing can happen with turtles and tortoises in some respect. As you get deeper into your career, so to speak, of keeping turtles and tortoises, and you're ready for a new challenge. And that challenge might not necessarily be able to be met with necessarily the captive bred specimens, possibly.
What you're saying, I do agree with.
Whether it's right or wrong, but I think that's part of why even like, if we're talking illegally acquired wild-caught specimens, there's no reason we should accept. And in general, we're not really accepting those. They come in without our acceptance. But I think that's why legal wild-caught animals are an entirely different beast, is because they fill this other need that isn't being filled, so to speak. Need might be the wrong word. There's this market that isn't being filled.
Because of the 4-inch law.
Partly because of I think the 4-inch law is part of it, but I don't, because the hatchlings move around pretty easily in this country, regardless of the 4-inch law.
But they don't go to somebody who's not savvy enough to find fauna classifieds or Facebook classifieds.
Truth.
The way that Russian tortoises do.
Right.
And the only reason it's Red-ear sliders and not some other imported species is because they grow so fast compared to tortoises.
Right. Right. And so to summarize, I'm going to go with Anthony's first answer. It's complicated.
It's complicated, man. It is. And it's, comes down to greed. We talk about a species that I know a little something about, the leaf turtles from Vietnam. They are smuggled in all the time. There was just somebody selling, I think 3 weeks ago, a group of them, really, really cheap, really, really cheap. And of questionable origin. And those come in because it's really tough. They have low fecundity rates, really tough to be able to meet that market demand the way Steve said. But that's not necessarily the case with these, cheaper tortoises and things like that are coming in legally. They're going to find whatever the cheapest way to sell something that says turtle, they're going to do. Within legal limits, and then whatever the cheapest way to legally sell something that says tortoise. It doesn't matter what the species is. If Russians are the cheapest way to do that at 4 inches and not over, then that's the way they're going to do it. And people don't even know how large Russian tortoises get, because you always see them at this 5-inch mark, being sold at PetSmart and then being resold on Craigslist and then being rehomed by Mats. And that's what you see. but they actually get a lot larger, and people don't know that because they're not going to send the large ones over, because you could send 5 in its place if you held that one back and sold the juveniles.
The general population that's seeing those at the pet store has no idea they're not full size either. A lot of people see them and they go, "Oh, I think that's a full size tortoise,"
or think it's a baby. I can't tell you how many times on Craigslist I see 5-inch Russian being sold as a baby. Yeah, it's 3 months old. I got it at the pet store. It's like, that is a sub-adult Russian tortoise. What are you talking about?
If it's wild caught, it's probably like 8 or 10 years old at that size.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but but if it makes sense financially, then people are going to do it if it's legal. And it's unfortunate.
I want to add something in there also. The importation thing isn't usually on a direct to consumer. It's going to a dealer, it's going to a pet store, things like that. But on top of it, it's, unfortunately it's ignorance, and it's not necessarily their fault. Like when I was 14, 15 and I'm going to the reptile shows and I see all these animals, not in my head did I think they were like recently wild caught animals. I didn't know any better. It's not until you get into and you learn about it that you start, making those decisions. Like, for instance, my favorite species of turtle, we talked about many times, the diamondback terrapin. My first terrapin that I got was from a well-known poacher, and I didn't know he was well-known. I didn't know that was an issue. He's been arrested now. He's off the market, which is great. But
was it a guy in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Know him, or know of him anyway?
Yeah. So this guy, hundreds
Steve's
of
uncle.
The years, yeah. Steve's uncle. Steve, is this how you got into turtles? But
see his face.
It's actually I can't see either of you guys' faces right now. I'm watching the live thing on there to catch up, but it's slow. Anyway, guys, so just so you're aware, we're about 4 to 5 seconds ahead of you live. So yeah.
I don't know what that means. I can hear. I'm with you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you guys fine. I just can't see you. I see a picture of you holding a Hamiltonian with a nice fresh beard going on.
That's an old picture. You could tell.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I need to change that. I don't use that email except for podcasts now.
Getting ready to go to the club,
Can you hear Steve? Steve, I can't hear you.
I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, there he is. He got so angry at my comment. I thought I just kept seeing the picture. There was like your face, like after I said that was all I saw, and I could only see and hear Kevin. So I thought maybe you were gone. I thought we were letting Kevin talk awkwardly because he thought he was alone, is what I thought. That's why I want to make sure he could hear me.
No, I can hear you. Yeah, I was just told on via chat by Steve Rosen that I'm muffled, and I think that's just my voice.
I just turned up your volume a little bit, so
I'm a muffled person. It's like they say no one's got a good shot. Bigfoot's just a blurry monster, is what that comedian says. So I'm a muffled man.
He is. He was much easier to understand before he had that big neck beard in the way. Now it all goes through. It filters through the neck beard, and you can't hear it as it's like he has a pillow over his neck when he's talking.
All right, I'm gonna move on. This is also from Ralph. It's not another question, just the topics aspect. And I know I said I wouldn't do every single one, but I do like this one too. He'd like to see a segment on each show dedicated to a specific species. It would be very, very educational, and especially to the younger generation.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to plan ahead to do those, but we should start putting together a list and schedule them out.
What Ralph is saying is, don't talk about it, be about it.
I'm sorry?
What Ralph is saying is, put your money where your mouth is. Don't talk about it, be about it. He's a tough cookie. He really is.
I like Ralph.
He's saying it because he's doing it on purpose. He's right, and he knows he's right, and he's also purposely busting our chops. That's Ralph Till, in a nutshell.
I love Ralph. Ralph's a great.
He's the best. I mean that with love. I want you all to know that I love him.
Ralph, I look forward to meeting you one day if you're on. I'm not sure if you're on right now.
If you're a man and you meet Ralph Till, do me a favor. Give him a hug. He gets very uncomfortable with male touching, and maybe it's because I'm big, but every time I'm with him, I put my arm around him in public. He loves me. I know he loves me, but it does make him uncomfortable. So just think about that. Okay? Good.
Ralph, my father's down in Florida currently right now. He's not really comfortable with male touching either, but I could probably convince him to come by and give you a handshake at least.
Don't get those guys. Those guys won't put their arm around each other. That's no fun. What point is male bonding? What point is male camaraderie and bonding if you're not going to put your hands on each other? That's the title of my autobiography.
Your memoir.
Stay tuned, Kevin. Not you, the other Kevin. That's the next book. It's not a Korra book.
Who is the other Kevin? What's his last name?
I know who he is. I can't tell you. He likes to stay.
Anonymity.
Yeah.
All right.
He does.
All right. I'll drop it.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. Sounds good. This next question is from a buddy that I know, Dan Roselli. He's down in Florida. Dan's also a terrapin guy. Well, this question is for whoever. It's not about terrapins. It kind of ties into the first question, but what do you think is the hardest thing about turtle conservation? And if we have time for a second question, how can someone like me best get into conservation? We answered that with the first question, so we don't need to do that again. But what do you think is the hardest thing about turtle conservation?
Drawing it the public attention that it deserves, like the pandas and all those other bigger animals, even the sea turtles get. I think that getting our good tortoises and freshwater turtles the attention that they so rightly deserve is the hardest piece, because that's how you get more of the money and more of the public sympathy, etc., that can really help change things for a species.
That was great. I've got one for you. I'll raise you one. The hardest thing, the most difficult thing, it's two-part answer. They go together. About my ear is very itchy. Anyone watching at home is wondering why I keep itching my ear. It's not a signal to Steve. It's my ear is itchy. But two-part answer to that question. I think number one is that you're undoubtedly going to deal with folks who have differing motivation, different things that they believe in. You have people who take a PETA approach. You have people who love to have animals in captivity. You have people who want to protect the land, and people who want to preserve the species in captivity, and people who want to feed their families and don't care about the animals. But all of those people, and the wealthy business people who want to plow over areas, and we're not necessarily fighting those people. We all need to work together and understand where somebody is coming from who has lived an entirely different life than you, sometimes in a different part of the world. Like, you can't even fathom what their life is and what their journey has been like. So I think so much of it for true conservation is learning about those cultures and learning to respect them. I see a lot of people who love radiated tortoises or radiateds are a great example. If you love radiated tortoises and you keep them in captivity and you want to breed them, and you get so mad every time you see this big smuggling of all these species, and we talk about it all the time, and obviously it upsets us like more than we could even share. However, there's something motivating those people, and there's something that matters to them besides the tortoises. And I think finding creative ways to solve those problems and find common ground and work together is really the most difficult thing about conservation. And just within that, just the complexity of conservation associated with that. Like, there's a lot that goes on. It's not just, hey, I can take these turtles and breed them and that'll be good because there'll be less need for them and they'll stop poaching them. Like, there's a lot more than that. And true conservation is rare because there's so much that goes into it. Conservation
very much intersects lots of different other areas of life. It impacts just general welfare of certain human populations, their ability to make a living, and so sometimes saving a species also means saving or providing for the people that are living in the area of the species. It isn't just, we can't just focus on the turtles and tortoises. We have to focus on the ecosystem. We have to focus on the people that live around there, and all the other animals in that ecosystem and the people who live around that ecosystem. It's It's the best conservation programs are the ones that manage to hit all these other important areas in the area, and they don't just focus directly on the animals.
Right. Which is why I think like the Turtle Conservancy has gotten a lot of praise lately. They're buying land where, endangered species live, especially species that have really limited ranges, and protecting the area. They also, take care of animals in captivity and do the whole nine, but that's something that I think has turned a lot of heads in a really positive light.
Another, I want to check out some really cool programs and how you engage natives and locals is check out the Creative Conservation Alliance. I'm good friends with the executive director of the Creative Conservation Alliance. He and I hang out at turtle conferences together. They've trained locals as parabiologists to aid in field work, etc. They're doing things with the people in the area to help not just turtles and tortoises, but primates and all sorts of other endangered species survive. Pangolins, all sorts of great stuff CCA is doing.
That is gangster.
So
that's so cool.
Their website is
conservationalliance.org.
So they're doing lots of cool stuff. They've been recognized already for their work globally, and they're doing some really neat things. Based in Bangladesh.
They're based in Bangladesh, yeah?
Yeah, that's their home country. Yep, that's their range country work. Yep.
So you just sit down at TSA with a dude from Bangladesh? You never told me about it?
The guy who's their executive director is from Tucson, Arizona, but
that's long way from Bangladesh.
The co-founder is originally from Bangladesh.
Oh, okay. That's awesome, though. What a cool idea. I can't wait to look that up. I just jotted that down with my pen. True story.
Actually, Kevin, just write Creative Conservation Alliance on your list for possible guests, and I'll talk to Scott about possibly getting on here.
Shut up.
Yeah, why not?
I was going to say, you didn't have to actually shut up. You got quiet after that. That is so cool. I'm getting excited. That's the type of stuff we need.
If I can, I want to dive in and add something to that last question, if that's okay with you guys. I think crickets. Yeah, sorry.
Listen, guys, we're really enjoying this. This is our 49th episode of the podcast. Next month, we're going to have the Creative Conservation Alliance on to celebrate our 50th. It's going to be awesome. Just kidding.
All right. Okay, so I think the hardest thing about conservation, and my only bit to it is the education that I can kind of help out with these guys personally. But I think the hardest thing is that it's unfortunately a battle that's never going to fully be won. The way the world is, there's opportunistic people, there's impoverished people, and if the only way that they're going to be able to provide for their family realistically is by taking an animal, ideally they don't, clearly, but it's the only way they know. It's just never going to end. So that's what I think is the hardest thing, and if we can figure out ways to make it so they don't have to do that, we'll be much better off. But I don't see that happening in our lifetime, unfortunately. Not to get somber and downtrodden, but
we're going to be optimistic.
You know what? If I can affect something in my life, I'm going to. That's how I'm going to be optimistic about it. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Bummer.
Hey.
See you next month, everybody.
All right. Good night. It's been real. Our next question comes from Matthew Healy, who is a great dude out of Missouri. He focuses on terrapin.
That would be genus of North American box turtles.
Correct. Yes.
We have to remember that not all the guests are nerds.
I apologize.
Some are aspiring nerds.
Yeah, so his question is, are there currently any studies being done on any of the Mexican species of terrapin besides Coahuila? Why or why not? And that's the Coahuila box turtle.
Yes, I believe there are studies being done on Mexican terrapin other than the Coahuila box turtle. I believe the American Turtle Observatory has their hands in some of of those species like Nelsoni, etc. I know they are highly concerned with the Mexican terrapin. In fact, I just pulled up their site right now. I'm pretty sure they're doing something with at least Yucatana, if not
That
more.
would be the Yucatan box turtle, and
Yes.
Nelsoni being the spotted box turtle, Mexican spotted box turtle.
Yes,
or?
you've got it. Yeah, so definitely Yucatan. I see that one on their website. I do not see others on there yet. But so I know ATO has the Mexican terrapin on their radar. So they're working with the Yucatan right now, but maybe more in the future, at least from them. So there's at least one other Mexican terrapin that's being studied right now. And so there might be others that we're not sure about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think anybody knows about every bit of work that's happening.
I was hoping you knew something because I don't. And I know Kevin does.
There you go. I knew one thing.
No offense, Kev. That was good, though. That was good. They're great. They're great turtles. And if you watch the classifieds like I do religiously, then you know that a lot of them have been showing up lately. So just a word to the wise: be careful. Have we done this PSA about Mexican box turtle species yet?
Maybe once, but we should do it again.
Let's do it again. It's episode 50. We're being super redundant. If you're just signing on, folks, we're being super redundant. So just be careful. There's a lot of them are showing up. A lot of them are adults, and
they're not legal.
Just be careful. So I don't know what the law is, but Mexican species are not kosher. That's why a lot of Mexican species, even if they're common, are not necessarily common in captivity, and therefore can demand a high price in the U.S. And it's amazing how many people in South Texas just happen to have rare Mexican box turtles for sale these days. Be careful, okay? That you love these animals and all that. You get really excited to try to do something, but when I see a desperate South Texan drastically dropping the price of their Mexican box turtles. And I don't mean just the Mexican box turtle, but the other Mexican species of box turtle as well.
Red flags pop up.
Yeah. And it's just best to be careful. No one here has any of those species for that reason. But just saying. Not that we don't want to, but think about the animals and think about your reputation and your future too. You have to be careful. So. Yeah, Steve, why are your eyes so big? I thought I said something that upset you.
No, I had something. I was looking at something, and
he was looking at something. Sorry, I put him on.
And my eyes are also getting a little bit dry, apparently. So
yeah, 'tis the season.
Yeah,
'tis the season. What else you got, Kev?
I got two more questions. One is a question from a live viewer, William, to Anthony. What have been your ups and downs with working with Testudo forstenii, and how did you overcome the Horked situation?
What Horked situation?
Overcome the Horked situation.
What does that mean? Does that mean when they were the tortoises?
No, I think that's related to usage of the word hork earlier in the show.
Really? How did I overcome it?
Yeah, I just moved.
Or was there another Horked situation that I mentioned? Because I've used that now as an adjective, like in past tense, all sorts of different things throughout the show now. Again, episode 50, the episode of redundancy. The great episode of redundancy.
The Horked episode.
The Horked. Oh, Horked. Yeah. Good one.
After this is over, I'm retitling this.
Good one.
The Horked episode.
Put it on the poll. Should it be titled Horked or The Great Redundancy? Let us know your thoughts.
Well, it was currently titled Viewer Appreciation Night.
No, that's lame. No way. That's out of here. That's number 3 at best. Yeah, so I don't know how to answer the Horked question, but you can fill in the blanks if you know what I mean. But I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because it sounds sexual. But as far as the Forstens tortoise, which you asked about, I actually I've really enjoyed keeping the Forsten tortoise. It's a great species. One of our partners at the Turtle Room is like the world's, well, at least the United States, foremost expert on the captive breeding of the Forstens tortoise. He's produced over 90 hatchlings over the years, and that's a species that has low fecundity as well, which means that they produce not a lot of young. And yeah, the most difficult part about keeping Forsten tortoises, I'm saying Forsten, by the way, speaking of sexual sounding names, that tortoise, right? People always make fun of me because I say it quickly and it's saying something.
I have one, and its name is Foreskin.
That's its name?
It's
That's name. You're a degenerate. It's so great.
That's Amanda for you. She's the degenerate.
Yeah, right. Because she's making fun of you because when you say it and just talk about it in normal conversation, that's what it sounds like. So the most difficult part in keeping this species is the fact that they just want to kill each other like all the time. If there was like a turtle, police, they'd be showing up anytime they see each other for domestic violence calls. They just literally want to kill each other anytime they see each other. And it's difficult because you have to put them together. They're like a critically endangered species that could be, functionally extinct in the wild within the next decade. Like they are going so fast. Christine Light is doing amazing work. You want to talk about someone who we should have as a guest? Christine Light is doing amazing work with them on the island of Sulawesi, where they are endemic. It's just not pretty. They set up a really cool program there and then had an earthquake that kind of set them back a lot. Not just their program, but just
like the entire island is bad shape.
Yeah, really bad shape. So so probably as important as ever to try to actually do something with the Forstens tortoise. What's really interesting too is our partner Ben, who is the breeder I was mentioning, who has had probably more success than anyone in the United States breeding the species, definitely has. He over the years has had hatchlings. Nobody wants them, but everybody wants to buy the wild caught imports that come in because they want to try their hand at breeding or what have you. But that's something that's always boggled his mind. I think that may have flipped now a little bit because you don't see hatchlings quite as much as you used to compared to adults. But it's amazing. And the species is still exported from Sulawesi. They still allow a certain quota to be sent out, which is amazing for a species that probably will be extinct and functionally extinct in the wild in the next 10 years. So anyway, keeping them, they just want to kill each other. They're really cool to feed because they eat anything. You could feed them everything from meat to vegetables and fruit and tomatoes and like all sorts of just weird stuff, mushrooms.
That's one of my favorite parts about the Minoria too. Those tropical tortoises really anything like a box turtle will.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Exactly, right. Just feed them kind of like a box turtle, maybe with a little bit heavier on the greens.
I did some this morning.
Yeah, there you go.
I did some worms this morning.
Oh, worms, yeah.
Worms,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Love a good worm.
Mm-hmm.
You do?
No, the tropical tortoises.
Oh, I'm embarrassed.
So I have a question from Tommy Maxwell. This is for Steve Enders.
Nice.
Yeah. If you could work with any turtle on the planet that you have not had the chance to work with, what would you choose and why?
Why is that only a question for Steve? That's not fair.
I don't know.
Is there a map turtle that you just haven't come across yet?
Well, I've gotten to work with Oculifera. I have those. I never thought that would happen until Jared came along and was like, "Hey, do you want these?" And I was like, "Yeah."
That's a ring map turtle for anyone who's wondering.
Yeah.
Ring map turtle.
I don't know. That's a really, really good question. And how I would have probably been actually able to answer that question half a decade ago. And now I'm not sure what I would pick. I mean, in Pennsylvania in general, we're not allowed to keep natives in captivity for the most part. So I haven't really gotten to work with any PA natives in captivity. But doing our wood turtle work, I've seen as many wood turtles in the wild as anything else. We have... there's one wood turtle that we see every other time we're out there. He's a really frequent. So I've gotten to know some wood turtles that way without having, even though I can't like keep them in captivity. So Man, I don't know what I'd pick. It's a great question. It's a tough question. I'd love to work with a female's Beals-eyed turtle because we only have males.
Nice. Message. If any of you guys are out there hoarding one, let us know.
Could use another female four-eyed turtle for that matter too, but
we're working on it. Not really. Those negotiations have screeched to a halt. That's for sure. If I could keep any turtle in captivity, I would keep like an extinct one. Stupendemies.
Isn't that like 8 feet across?
Yeah, and I would ride it to school.
That would it was like across like the Midwest, like when we were covered in water. That's
yeah.
Found, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
I couldn't tell you. I had tough enough time remembering the genus. But yeah, that's what I would keep if I could keep any species.
All right, so second part to that question is for Anthony. What is your favorite aquatic turtle?
Was that really for me? You just make that up.
I mean, I can show you the screen.
I believe you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't believe you before, though. My favorite aquatic turtle? That's a really tough one. Boy, this is it. It took to the end of the show.
I think how we define aquatic here change your answer as well.
Oh, and just how I define favorite.
Yeah.
You know.
I think they're suggesting like a turtle you would see in an aquarium.
I would say probably the alligator snapping turtle. That's an aquatic turtle that I really love that I don't keep because it probably wouldn't be fair to them and probably wouldn't be much use, conservation, or it would have educational use. But anywho, yeah, that's a pretty impressive species. But I mean, like to be able to see some of these other global species around the world in the wild that I don't necessarily want to keep. That would be amazing. So
yeah, I think
fly river turtle's a pretty cool aquatic turtle.
Oh, I think these days, I'd be more excited about seeing some things in their native habitat than I would about getting in captivity.
Completely agree.
I think that's one of the biggest things that changed for me over the last 7-8 years, 7.5, 5 to 7 years is as much as it'd be fun to keep certain things in captivity, getting to see them in the wild would be just an absolute blast.
Yeah, I've come across in the past couple of years some species in a local park to me that like I've never seen my entire life in Connecticut. And I mean, I'm 36 now, so it's been a long time coming. That was really amazing to see stuff that I've only seen in zoos. So that was pretty awesome. But yeah.
What type of stuff are you finding out there?
I mean, we've
talked about tortoises in the wild in Connecticut?
I found a redfoot tortoise walking toward the pond out of the woods. That's not one of the ones I'm talking about, but that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. You think it would have survived the winter if you didn't find it?
I don't think so.
What about the Russian tortoise you found?
I didn't find a Russian tortoise. You sent one over to me. That was found.
Oh, that someone else found. You're right.
Yeah, I didn't find that one personally. That one probably would have survived. Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
It might still be surviving right now, for all I know.
What's that supposed to mean?
It escaped, so I don't know where it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first.
This was like a year and a half ago, 2 years
Kevin
ago.
is, I already knew that, but I wasn't getting it. I need you to make a confession on the podcast. Maybe, okay, new title of this episode, Kevin's Confession.
Listen,
you didn't need to do that.
In my defense, this wasn't a planned event. I was called like, hey, can you take this Russian tortoise for a little bit because it was in my local town?
Don't blame the person who...
I'm not. Let me get into this.
Who thought of you.
Don't jump the gun, pal.
Don't blame the angel on earth.
Listen, I'm blaming myself. All I wanted to say was that I didn't have adequate time to set up a correct pen for them.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, and then I'm looking at it from both sides. My dogs tried digging under the pen from one side, and the Russian tortoise dug from the other side. It was a perfect match.
Wow.
Luckily, my dogs are about the size of the Russian tortoise, so there's no damage to anybody.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Thanks, man.
Please direct viewers. Please direct your hate mail to the Turtle Room PO Box.
Kevin.minto@theturtleroom.com. I accept all the hate mail there.
He always does.
Good. I don't want to open it in the actual mailbox.
Just don't send me any asbestos. All right, that's all the questions that I have from the live chat that I saw.
Asbestos.
Asbestos.
We get all of them from the forum too.
Asbestos? Are you talking about anthrax?
Actually, this is a second part of that question is, have you guys ever considered publishing a book covering every living Colonian on the planet? Colonians, since Anthony told me not everybody's nerds, are what turtles and tortoises are.
Well, we don't need to do that because lots of other people have already done that, so to speak. Obviously, there's in some ways they could use being updated, but there's some really good books out there that covers pretty much every turtle and tortoise that's around, despite the taxonomy maybe being a little out of date or whatever. There's lots of good resources out there. Some of them are called Turtles of the World. There's a lot of good stuff out there already. And I couldn't imagine the time that would take to do. And I'm not sure we'd have the time to do that with all the other things we're trying to do.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, those are some of my favorite books. I would just sit up at night with like a headlamp on and just flip through the pages and look at the picture and read the scientific name and do that with like one book for like a week and then switch to another book. My Keeping and Breeding Freshwater Turtles, Russ Gurley's book, looks like I don't even know what. It looks like it was ripped apart by children like for decades. The poor thing is so tattered because it's been read 2,000 times.
I don't have that book. I got to contact Russ and get it sent over.
It's a really good book, but it's really difficult to get your hands on now because it's been out of print for a long time. It's from 2002.
Well, he might have his own copies, possibly.
I don't know. He's working. Well, I shouldn't say anything, but he's working on something. Anyway,
this book.
Yeah. Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Anthony tried stealing it from me when he came over.
I have since got my own copy. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Now I know it's safe. I got to take it out of the lockbox.
No, it's not safe though. I'll still steal it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to feed my family.
Yeah.
There's no Russian tortoises. I mean, radiated tortoises walking around for me to do that with, so I have to steal from you.
Dude, just go to what's that buffet? Golden Star? Golden Coin? What is it called?
I don't know. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, Golden Corral?
Golden Corral.
Yeah, what about it? To feed my family?
Feed your family.
I do. When I go there, I line my pockets with Ziploc bags.
Nice.
And I make my whole family wait in the car, and I eat until I'm gonna pass out, and then I fill my pockets and I walk out and feed them like a Papa Bird. I don't chew at first, but I bring the food back for everybody.
You know what, guys? Sans a guest. This is my favorite episode so far.
Really? I feel like we really limped through it.
This has been fun. We've been moving pretty good too.
I feel like we really struggled.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I can't. Anthony, it's been almost an hour and a half already. Can you believe it?
I'm not going anywhere. So you could you could close off the show. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna keep.
I gotta hop off. I gotta put Penny to bed, and she sleeps 3 feet from me right now.
That's an idea for a future show. Turtle Room Pondcast filibuster.
Watch as Penny.
We'll stay on until there's 0 viewers, which it could probably happen pretty quick. But
yeah, they'd all turn off, so we'd have to turn. So we'd leave. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed episode number 50. We enjoyed it. Keep sending those suggestions on guests and future topics. We'll be paying attention for those and planning future shows. Kevin will take the lead on that, as he has been for a while. And those of you that were like, how can we get involved? I typed my email in there several times. You can find it on our website. You want to take pictures, you want to write, you feel like you just want to find your skill, just send me an email and
contribute video.
Figure it out. Yeah, you can help Kevin shoot video. Lots of different things we could use. So just, send us your contact info and we'll be in touch.
If I could just quickly too, because we forgot to plug next month, we do have a guest. James Hall is a keeper at Phoenix Zoo, and he's a turtle guy. And
February 4th.
Yeah, so he'll be here. We're looking forward to that. He's looking forward to that. It's going to be an awesome show. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys there. So send your questions early. Send your questions during the next show. Or don't send your questions. Just tune in. Tell a friend, especially if that friend should be a guest, that sort of thing.
Tell all of your friends.
Tell your neighbor.
Indeed. Thank you all for your support. To help support the podcast and the Turtle Room's conservation and education work. We're a nonprofit now. We're still waiting for our official letter, but the IRS lets us accept tax-deductible donations in the meantime. Feel free to log on to our website, theturtleroom.com/donate. Send us a little bit. We thank all of you who have been donating already. We've been blown away by what you've done even since the calendar turned over here at the new year already. Thank you so much. And we look forward to doing this again in 4 weeks. That's Anthony. That's Kevin. I'm Steve. And we're out of here so you don't get bored and want to come back later. Adios.
Love you guys. Love you guys. Hug Ralph Till.